might know that LeBron James made a comment earlier this week that brought back into the conversation in the news cycle the 65-year-old picture of Jerry Jones, who was standing outside of his Little Rock High School, which was segregated at that time. No blacks were in the school at that point. And that was a Washington Post article, and a considerable conversation came from it. Jerry answered questions about it after the Thanksgiving Day game, but it was brought back into the news cycle. So Dak was asked about it this week at his media availability. And I'll tell you what Dak said to us on Friday. We spoke with him, and he said he personally believes in change, that he's seen Jerry's grace, and added, if you check his resume, he's given a lot of guys of color a chance, even helping some after they were no longer with the Cowboys. And Dak continued with us. It was up to Jerry to respond, which he did after that game on Wednesday, answering questions about that picture. So we spoke with Jerry Jones when he arrived here at the stadium this afternoon about this exact topic, and he told us about the paper he wrote when he was in college about this entire picture and the times that there were in Little Rock, talking about how Jerry grew up in a neighborhood that had more African Americans in Little Rock and what he was exposed to during his time. He told us then and now he has a deep sensitivity to it and understands the criticism that comes with the conversation. All part of the attention that is always seemingly on the Dallas Cowboys. For more on this, we go back to the studio to Maria, Tony, and Jason.
Thank you so much, Mike, for especially a lot of that background information. And you talk about the conversation. Obviously, it started to center around minority hiring. The record of both Jerry Jones and the NFL at large, there are still 13 teams that have never hired a minority or a black coach. And so the conversation is really about how do you remove some of those hurdles? How do you continue to evolve the role of head coaching? And Jerry Jones has spoke to it, that there's still some work to do. What does that work look like?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm not going to judge Jerry Jones by a 65-year-old picture. I want to judge him by what he's done in the National Football League. And Jerry has been a pioneer in a lot of ways. He's changed the face of the NFL from a business standpoint, marketing. He's had an opportunity to change the face on minority hiring, and he has not done that. That's the one criticism I would have.
Yeah, and one of the comments that Jerry made in answering these questions were sometimes you hire people that you know, and that happens in all walks of life. It certainly happens in football. This is a little bit tricky for me because I played for him for 8 years. I coached for him for 4 years. I'm obviously not a minority, and he hired me because he knew me. But, Coach, like when you were hired by Coach Noel in Pittsburgh, part of knowing someone is, hey, hopefully you've made a positive impression over that time. The question is, what do we do from here? And the idea is we have to somehow get minority candidates who are certainly qualified for these positions an opportunity to be in front and get to know these owners and have a chance to make a positive impression. And there are a lot of ways the NFL has been trying to do that, expand the pipeline at lower levels, have opportunities for minorities to go to the owners' meetings and talk to these guys. The Rooney Rule, I say double down on the Rooney Rule. Give these guys opportunities to get in front of owners and make the positive impression to get these opportunities to be head coaches.
You know, and Jerry made a comment about who you know, and that is life in the NFL, okay? And I will say this, I got hired my first job in the NFL because my coach knew me, okay? Not because I had experience. I had never coached before. Chuck Noll hired me. When I became a head coach, I hired people that I knew, some people that I knew. So that happens. And I think what we've got to do is work on how do we get other people known, and that's what we have to work on in the NFL.
The process to broaden the candidate pool to have these conversations. And the NFL started that. I think we need to do more of it. But the other piece of this thing is the spirit, the intentionality of this for these owners. They have to say, okay, let's slow down the hiring process after the season ends and give us an opportunity to get to know them with the intention of trying to open up the pool to all the candidates to give them a chance to have one of these 32 jobs.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And it's not just the owners. Yes, they have a big part of it. But I think general managers, head coaches, Denny Green helped me tremendously when I was an assistant coach. He involved me in personnel meetings and things that I wouldn't necessarily have had to been involved in as just a defensive coordinator. But he wanted me to get a piece of that. And I think we can do that. I did that intentionally to try to help people be known a little bit more in those circles.
Yeah, and I think the big difference is Jerry Jones saying who you know versus X's and O's. And I talked to some young black assistants that really hope to be in that hiring candidate pool one day, is that they feel as though maybe they don't know the right people, or the network looks exactly the same, or that they're uncomfortable when they sit down in front of these hiring panels and maybe they're made up of all white men. So it's not just who you know, it's also who relates to you in the room that has the opportunity to make that decision. And I think we're at a point where we want the head coaching role to evolve in the NFL in the same way we've watched the quarterback role, because my friend here was not allowed to play quarterback, and he was an outstanding collegiate one, but then he's grown into being the first black head coach of a Super Bowl winning team. And now I hope in your lifespan that we have the opportunity to say there was some intentionality brought to the hiring practices in the NFL to make sure that more minority candidates had an opportunity.
Maria, can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
We had just beaten the Seahawks in the 2018 playoffs. And it was the wild card round. We're going to go the divisional round. And I'm walking out of the locker room afterwards, and the great New York Times writer, William Roden, comes up to me. He's an African-American guy. And we're talking. I've known him for a long time. And he says, I want to talk to you about something. You know, Dak Prescott, an African-American quarterback, going against Russell Wilson, an African-American quarterback. And I just kind of stopped for a second. I said, are we really still talking about this? Because I don't see Dak Prescott as an African-American quarterback. I see him as a quarterback, an unbelievable leader. In the same way with Russell Wilson. And we're not fully there yet with quarterbacks. We're certainly not there yet with coaches and head coaches. Hopefully we'll get to the point that we all just say, let's do it based on the merits, like Martin Luther King said a long, long time ago.
And what you're pointing to is this idea that now there's an evolution where we believe, hey, a black guy can be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's perfectly fine. But the goalposts have to stop moving for these black head coaches who are looking for the opportunity to become a head coach in the NFL.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.